So I got invited to go and attend a summer camp with my sister and brother-in-law down in Texas back when I was in the 8th grade. And I went to this camp, and I remember it was super hot that night down in Texas, and there was this preacher that was up on the stage, and he was talking about surrendering your life to Jesus and following the call that he has on your life. And I felt this incredible just experience where I sensed that the Lord was calling me to surrender my life to ministry and to be a pastor. And really to sense that in the 8th grade is kind of a crazy thing, but I remember walking down the aisle and going up and just telling the Lord, God, I give myself to you and whatever this is that you want for my life in the future. Fast forward, I got into high school, actually got in with a bad crowd. I was the captain of the football team. I went to all the parties, ended up joining a fraternity when I went to college. And I was there at Oklahoma State University, living in the frat house. And the bass is bumping, and there's kegs in the halls, and there's girls everywhere. And I really just had this sense that I didn't want to be a part of the party that night. And so I went into my room, and there was this Bible that my parents had sent to school with me, and I dusted it off and I opened it up and turned to Galatians chapter 5, where it talks about the fruit of the flesh versus the fruit of the Spirit. And I knew in that moment that I really had abandoned my call and I wasn't following the Lord. So I called my parents that next day, and by that time they had moved up to Missouri. I was in Oklahoma, and I said, I just want to come home. And I left school. I went to live with my parents. There for the next 6 months, I was sleeping on the floor in the computer room of their house. I didn't have any friends. I didn't know anybody in Missouri, but I sensed that the Lord still had a call on my life. And so I opened up the phone book. We still had paper phone books at that time. And I found one of the biggest Baptist churches that I could find, and I showed up there, and they had a college and career class. And so I started going to class, and really shortly after that, I ended up meeting a girl named Heather that became my wife. We met, and about 6 months later we were married, and they kicked us out of the college class because we were married. So I started volunteering with the youth at my dad's church. Now I remember in those early days, I was so afraid of talking in front of the students that my wife would lead the Bible study, and then I would play the games with the kids. And little by little, I started interacting more with the students. I started reading my Bible. I started doing the teaching. And I again embraced that call, that God really did have a call for me to be a pastor. And so fast forward a few years, we planted our first church. And now, 22 years later, we've had the privilege of planting 3 churches. I've been in ministry now, work for Sin Network, helping to coach other pastors. And it's really been amazing to see how God's call in my life in the 8th grade was a real call. And through His Spirit, He's allowed me to be a part of amazing things in ministry and following that call in my life.